Hey, what's up? It's your boy BobbySapphire. Today's video is all about sitting down at the table at a big tournament. What do you do? What should you carry around with you? How do you take your cards out of the box? How do you shuffle? Yes, you rifle shuffle. Just kidding. You probably don't, but I definitely do. Anyway, I wanted to get this out before May 4th weekend. Didn't work out. However, if you're going to go to a big tournament this summer, Gen Con, I'll see you there. You might want to check out this video. Step your game up from your local play. If you do anything differently, you don't like what I do, you've got a suggestion, hit us up in the comments. Okay, so I've been wanting to make a table mechanics video for a while because I think big tournament play is new to a bunch of people. Or maybe we're rusty. I know I felt really rusty when I flew down to Florida, and one of the things I was really interested in was keeping my mechanics pretty tight. So even though I'm carrying a gaming bag throughout the day, I take my mat out of the tube and I carry around my deck box, and because I don't have a better token case, I have a little token case too, but ideally I can fit these tokens in here someday. So I get to my table and obviously unroll the mat, keep it tight. There we go, beautiful. Thanks, Dave Filoni. Oh my God, I just had to move it. All right, so deck box. I've got my notepad, which I'm gonna keep to my right because I'm right-handed. I got my pen in here. Even though I swear by gel pens in my professional life, I'm using non-gel for lack of bleed ink disasters. So one thing at our event, the Connecticut 1K this past weekend, there were a couple disqualifications. One of them was because one of the players had extra cards in their deck box, which is a huge no-no. So I've got sleeves. I use sapphire sleeves as I am so named. And I also have my inner sleeves in there as well. So I've got all my sleeves. I'm gonna use one of these for my hand. And I've got some extra dice and components in there. Extra dice that have symbols like shield and +1/+1 and reminder and stuff, just in case. And those are good if I'm ever on stream. So I lock my deck box, my component box back up. Actually just keep it off to the left. And then I've got my deck box. I'm gonna open up my tokens and leave them off to the side in an easily reachable place. I take out my initiative token and the two larger tokens. Deck box. I've got my leader in a plastic case. I've got my base in a colored sleeve that matches the base color. And I have my deck and my sideboard only. One of the things I have in here is a divider, and what I do is I have both the deck, the main deck, and the sideboard facing the divider. So when I pull out my deck, I pull it out with the divider. That way I don't flash a card to my opponent. Obviously this doesn't matter if it's open deck lists, but otherwise I do have the divider there to place down, put it back in, and then same if I'm pulling out my sideboard between games, I do it like that. If we're talking about sideboarding real quick, general practice if you want to mask how many cards you're sideboarding in and out, you can just shuffle all 10 in and then pull 10 out. I think that's kind of tedious. I think maybe at the highest level of plays you might want to do that, but I have no problem. Sometimes I'll pull in 4 or 5 cards, even though I'm only going to sideboard 1 or 2, and just pull out the extras if I really want to mask what I'm doing. But in general, the other players sideboarding, I don't care a ton. But sideboard cards go back in my box with the divider. And now I talk about shuffling a little bit. I'm going to try and do it out here. One of the things I try and do is I try and keep the cards away from my opponent so I don't flash, especially after sideboarding, in case I were to flash them coming in. I do several of these side pushes, just very loosely. I know some people don't like damaging their cards. I actually prefer to rifle shuffle. These are new sleeves, so I expect them to be a little loose. Nothing expensive in here in the Sabine deck, maybe a Hyper 4 Cause, but I also double sleeve, so I'm not generally concerned with bending the cards at all. And I do a light rifle shuffle, I don't go crazy. So I give it about 7 or 8 of these. I'll generally do some layering shuffles, top and bottom, top, maybe 4 or 5 times, and I'll give it 6 or 7 more of these. couple more, and then I present my deck to my opponent for them to cut. Generally, I cut my opponent's deck once in a while, I'll shuffle. All right, let's talk about actual in-game mechanics. So one thing I always do to make sure I'm not drawing too many cards as I lay them out. I do 4 and 2. You could do 3 and 3. It doesn't really matter. I keep my main deck sideways. I find it less cumbersome on the table. And then I keep my graveyard or discard pile to the right. So I pull my hand, I look, sure, we'll keep this. And then what I do to further, I guess it just feels more comfortable to me, but I'm going to put the card down face down, upside down. Yeah, we'll resource the Alliance X-Wing. And then I keep my resources in 2s. If I'm playing, like the Sabine, I might not aggro to like 6 or 7, but if I am playing a deck with more than 7 resources, I might go to 3s, but I try and keep them like this. And then when I want to check on them, I can lift them up and I'm looking at them the way they're meant to be looked at. And I just find that really clean. So I'm going to pay my 2. I'm going to run out my Battlefield Marine. And then my opponent passes, so I'm going to say pass. And when I draw off the top of my deck, I pull 1 to the side here, lift it into my hand, 1 to the side here, lift it into my hand. Got some hot draws here for the mirror. So we're going to resource a Dodonna, tapped, untap like that, untap our units, or ready our units rather. Same here, I'm going to play a red 3, I'm going to attack. Maybe I use Energy Conversion Lab and I want to use a token. Right, I'm just trying to do everything pretty clean. So next turn, I'm going to draw, you got to get that nice snap. What a hand. Can I draw this gas all the time? I'm going to assume they're not coming to space for us. So put down, ready, and we're good to go. Deploy my leader. Another thing I do is like I make sure, even though I'm keeping track on a notepad, so I'll do 3, and then I'll add 1, and I'll cross out every time damage is exchanged. And even if I miss one, you know, I'm always keeping up with my opponent and asking them, and I'll like make sure I note if I miss something. So like, oh, it was actually 5, and I made a mistake there. Pretty simple, but I think for the most part, oh yeah, let's do discard pile. So we had these in our hand, right? And my discard pile's here, move them over. Another thing I'll do is, I don't have one, but if I was gonna give someone Sentinel, I'll generally use some sort of Sentinel indicator, move them to the front row, and then have the units that don't have Sentinel in the back row for better indicator. That might be giving my opponents too much easy information. It might be best to not do that if you want to see if your opponent will make a mistake. You think they will. In general, I want to keep a clean board state, especially when adding Sentinel to something that doesn't normally have Sentinel. I like those, and I like these reminder tokens for things like Overwhelming Barrage. I actually use this for my Boba Fett. When things die, I keep an indicator on the top of my deck as sort of like a reminder that I don't want to forget it because I don't want it to be off the table. And then I will put the indicator on Boba Fett if something left the battlefield that turn. And the other thing I wanted to talk about is when I'm doing things like getting a component, or if I'm waiting for my opponent to do something, I've been trying to get in the habit of putting another non-game component token on top of my hand so that everyone knows that that's my hand where it is, which can be difficult. So I just keep one Hyperloops token with me to do that. And that's good for when you're doing things like Vader, and you want to put your hand down and you don't want to get confused about which one was my hand and which one were the 10 cards. So then you pull something out, shuffle it back, and then you're good. I'm always trying to just keep things a little bit tight. I'm not necessarily a neurotic guy. When I play, I try and be a little neurotic to keep things straight. I think I talked about everything I want. I try and use indicators for as much as I can. But let me show off these shields too, because they're just so pretty. But that's about it. Those are like the table mechanics I try and express in my game. And again, when I'm sideboarding in between games, I'm going to get all my stuff together and sideboard. And the other thing that I do that I guess I didn't mention at the beginning of the video is that when I sit down, I first check, I first make sure my sideboard is correct. So I'll take out my 10 and say like, great, I got 10 in here. Those are the 10 that they should be. And then that means like I successfully de-sideboarded last game. And then I'll just count to make sure that this is 50 before presenting my deck, which I'm not gonna do for all of you, but.